Okay, so would you please confirm whether I should start or are we waiting for more participants to join in? Okay, so since we have to wait for 5 more minutes, how about you guys tell me how are you doing? So I can see 17 participants, including me and the host. So it means 15 students are here. So Rabab, Shazia, Asma, Hassan, how are you guys doing? Would you please write in the chat box? How are you all? Okay, and I would really like the chat box to be very active during the session. I'll keep posting questions and you will like keep responding to me so that we have an interactive session because obviously it's online. I can't see you guys, but I really want you guys to be active in the chat box. So why don't you let me know how are you in the chat box? I would like if you write down the message rather than unmuting because obviously you will unmute. I mean, people can unmute together and then the voice gets distorted. So yeah, how are you? You guys there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We are fine. What
You're
about you?
fine. I'm doing good. Thank you. What's your name? I can see PC written. Hello, the voice is gone. Okay, so okay, I would appreciate if you write it down in the chat box. What's your name? Okay, so we have Nusrat's response. I'm doing great back home from university for the last Ashra plus Eid. Super happy about that. I have some tiny goals to make the most of this time. Great, Nusrat. Assalamu alaikum by Shaheen. Walaikum assalam. Okay, you were good. Alhamdulillah. Okay, your name is Hisham, right? I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. And if not, I'm so sorry for that. Sania is saying doing great. How about you? I'm fine too. Thank you so much, Sania. Umama is saying Assalamu alaikum. Walaikum assalam, Umama. Okay, I'm really glad to know that you're doing good. I know it's always difficult to take out time during Ramzan. Ramzan has, a very like different schedule. So we have very different commitments as well. So makes sense that it takes people time to join in and, to take out time for such sessions. So Hera is saying that she is good as well. Alhamdulillah. How are you? So Hera, I'm good as well. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum everyone. Am I
Bye.
audible?
Yes, Rashid, you are.
Hello.
Yes, yes, you are audible.
Ji, first of all, I want to introduce you,
Okay.
Ma'am Ho Jamil. Thank you so much for joining today's lecture as a guest speaker, to present research findings. And we have students from various regions from Pakistan, like not only from Pakistan, दूसरे countries से भी लोग हैं. We have students from Sudan, from Saudi Arabia. और अभी तो हमने जो एक साइंटिफिक राइटिंग कोर्स लॉन्च किया
Okay.
उसमें तो वी हैव स्टूडेंट्स फ्रॉम ऑलमोस्ट 50 कंट्रीज, नॉट ओनली फ्रॉम पाकिस्तान. लाइक 40 to 50 कंट्रीज से हमारे पास स्टूडेंट्स एंड प्रोफेशनल्स हैं. सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग टुडेज सेशन. Miss Hu Jamil is the head of the Department of Communication and Research Skills at Danning Services Private Limited. And thank you so much, ma'am. The floor is yours.
Uh, Thank you so much, Mr. Rashid, for such a flattering introduction. Thank you, and I'm really happy to know about this scientific writing course that you have talked about. It's great that you are introducing such kind of courses and internship programs for students, because I feel that these are much needed in our academic landscape. So thank you for doing this, and I'm really, really glad to be here. To be honest, the pleasure is all mine. So yeah, thank you.
And one more thing I will mention, that is the success story of Research Minds, that other than the TV show, जो कि
Yeah.
मैंने आपसे जिक्र किया था, अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, we have
Yes.
recorded the TV show episodes and teaser is final. And after recording few more episodes, we will launch it किसी चैनल के ऊपर ना. तो ये है कि अभी
Okay.
जो हमारी जो प्रीवियस इंटर्नशिप्स हुई हैं उसमें देयर इज अ सक्सेस स्टोरी की एक पब्लिकेशन आ गई है. एंड 5 मोर
Oh,
पेपर्स
great.
सबमिट हैं डिफरेंट इंटरनेशनल जर्नल्स के अंदर. और जो पब्लिकेशन हुई है वो श्रीलंका की एक स्टूडेंट है थर्सिका, उनकी पब्लिकेशन हुई है
Okay.
विद डॉक्टर मोहम्मद अली. सो दैट इज अ सक्सेस
Okay.
स्टोरी ऑफ प्रीवियस बैच ऑफ नोवा रिसर्च इंटर्नशिप प्रोग्राम.
Oh, that's absolutely wonderful. I am really so happy to know this, and it's I think it's a great accomplishment that I think last Joe batch tha, it was your first like it was the first offering of Nova internship, and you managed to get like one such high quality publication and 5 more papers that you are mentioning. So that's amazing. That's absolutely incredible.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Are we good to go? Shall we begin?
Yes, please.
All right. So let's get started, all of you. So just one more time, if you guys can confirm whether you can view the slides, and then I'll begin. So can you guys, all of you, like, can you see the slides?
Yes, we are. Yes, we can
Okay, and
see.
okay, great. And am I perfectly audible to all of you?
Yes, ma'am, you are perfectly audible.
Perfect. Thank you so very much. So let's begin. Today the topic that we have to like discuss is something about presenting, right? So writing a research paper, composing, like different sections of a research paper is something that I think you must have already done, or maybe you are still in the process of like learning that. But presenting research or presenting research findings is something that is equally important. I mean, we have a lot of conferences, for example, we have a lot of opportunities where we present our research papers, where we present our research findings in particular. And although once you are done with writing, or once you write down your research paper, that's a great achievement, that's a wonderful accomplishment. But presenting research papers at various conferences, various places, opens more opportunities for you, and it makes a lot of people get to know about your research, right? So once we present when we present in front of, let's say, a lot of people, or even a few people, we are opening up more opportunities, and we are letting other people know our research, we are letting other people know our findings, we are letting other people know about our work. So presenting research findings is an important and an absolutely crucial aspect of becoming a good researcher, in other words. in particular, I feel that, since we are into the 21st century, and presentation skills has kind of emerged as an extremely significant aspect of any student's journey. Right. So it's not just in research. I mean, obviously, today we will be focusing on research findings and presenting research papers in particular. But to be honest, presentation skill is something that is extremely needed or absolutely important in any field of research, in any field of interest, or in any field. So no matter if you are even if you're not doing research and you were simply studying a course, or you are enrolled in any module, mostly when you are being assessed, you have to give a presentation. So presentation skill is a very important skill that we need to develop in any case. But we'll be focusing on research findings in our today's session. So when we talk about presenting research findings, there are a lot of types of research presentations. We will specifically be talking about two main types that are generally that are generally needed, or that are generally required. One of them, like the first type, is giving a PowerPoint presentation, right? So you may have to present your research paper, and you may have to do it in a conference where there are a lot of people in front of you, and you have to present your research paper. So you will be needing a PowerPoint presentation along with that. Right. So one type of research presentation that we will be focusing on today is PowerPoint presentation. How you make the slides, what should be included when you are making research presentation, what should not be included, what are the things that you need to focus upon. Right. So we'll be looking at PowerPoint presentation. Another kind of research findings presentation, or another kind of research presentation that we usually come across and that are usually there in conferences, is poster presentations, right? How many of you have seen poster presentations, or how many of you are at least familiar with poster presentation? Do you know what that means, or do you at least have you heard the term poster presentation? You can write your responses in the chat box. Have you heard the term of poster presentation? Do you know what it is? Okay, Omama is saying yes. Okay, so Mohammed Abbas is saying yes. Nuzad is saying yes. Great, right? So it means that you've heard the term and you are familiar with it, as well as Namira is telling us. So that's great. Hasib is saying that we've heard about it. Excellent, right? So we will be focusing on these two kinds of presentations, right? PowerPoint presentation firstly, and then we will move to poster presentation, and we'll see the do's and don'ts of a poster presentation, what to include, what not to include, and so on and so forth. But before that, before I begin my own presentation, and before I explain you the things that are important and that need to be kept in mind, there is one activity that I really like, and I usually do it with my students, even in my face-to-face classes. So let me move the slides, and then you'll be able to see it. So, okay, how many of you are familiar with KWL grid? Can you see it on your screen? Can you guys see KWL grid written on your screen? Okay. Okay, you are able to see it, but you are not familiar with it. Okay, it's okay. This is what I am here for, actually. So okay, so KWL grid, it has it's just a beginning activity, and then we will move to our topic. So KWL, like the K stands for what you know, the W stands for what you want to know, and the L stands for what we learned, or what learn. So basically, since we are doing this session, before I start discussing about research findings, I would like to know what you already know, right? ऑलरेडी आपको क्या आपकी नॉलेज में है, आपको रिसर्च फाइंडिंग्स के बारे में क्या पता है, प्रेजेंटिंग रिसर्च फाइंडिंग्स के बारे में आपकी क्या नॉलेज है. I would like to know that first. So we are starting with the first step, which is K. ठीक है, हम K से start कर रहे हैं. K means what I already know. See, whenever you are into a session, आप जब भी कोई session में होते हैं, या whenever there is some kind of webinar that you are attending, you always have some kind of background knowledge. that is the no part कि आपको already क्या आपकी knowledge में है. So I would like all of you to write down, you can write down a word, you can write down a sentence, right? So whatever you already know about the topic, I want you to write that down in the chat box. The topic is presenting research findings, right? What do you already know about the topic? Already आपकी knowledge में क्या है? Presenting research findings से आपका क्या मतलब है? So whatever you know, whatever is in your knowledge, just write it down. Maybe a word, maybe a sentence, maybe a couple of sentences, and then we'll move to the next step. Yes. So what do you already know about presenting research findings? Yes. Write it down in the chat box. Okay, so according to Tuba, what she already knows is that sharing result of our research in structured manner or in a way audience can understand it. Yes, Tuba, that's amazing. That is what presentation of a research is, that you are sharing results of your research and you want the audience to understand it. So that's great. Nuzat is saying that presenting findings means knowing audience, well-structured presentation flowcharts. Okay, great. Uh, According to Shazia, it's a research proposal. Okay. The mentioned findings have to be presented to be authoritative. Okay, Mustafa, yeah, makes sense. Hasib is saying present research means to tell how you done a research. Okay, we have to present our findings. Okay, that's great, right? So Namira is saying we have to present our findings in the form of posters or PPT in easy words. Sanya is saying letting everyone know in a specific way. Okay, so it means that all of you, what I'm really glad to know is that all of you at least know what is the topic about, right? So presenting research findings exactly means this. Very good. Now, this was our step one, right? So we now know, like I, for example, now know that what do you know? So we are done with the first step. This is the step, right, that we are done with, what we know. Now let's move to what we wonder or what we want to know. So since you are into this session, right, you have joined this session, Ramzan hai, Ramzan ke bawajood aapne ye session join kiya hai. So it means you really want to know something. आप कुछ ना कुछ जानना चाहते हैं. Although थोड़ा बहुत आपकी already knowledge में है, you know what is, what is a research, you know what do I mean by presenting research findings, but there are certain things that you want to know, right? So that is the W part, what you want to know or what I wonder, right? What I really wonder, what I really, want to explore about this topic. So why don't we go to the W step? What do you want to know? Yes, everybody, what do you want to know? You are into the session, you've joined this session. Before I start teaching you, I mean, not teaching to be exact, it's more like a discussion. I learned from you and you will learn from me. So before we start the discussion session, I would like to know कि आपके क्या goals हैं. आपने session join किया है. What do you want to know?
Madam, can I speak?
Yes, you can. You can.
Yeah, madam, actually presenting data,
Yes.
what I already know. First of all, I will start from what I know, like presentation of final data should be in tables, and graphical presentation is very, very important to publish
Okay.
any manuscript or any research in Q1 or Q2 journals. Like so many things are important
Yes.
to present data uh, in a very good manner, uh, in coherent manner. Also, there should be pie charts, bar charts, or figures,
Yes.
tables. These are
Yes.
also very, very important.
Okay. Okay. So
So,
this is This is what you know, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, good, very good.
Today, yeah, but we want to know like some new techniques, new tricks to present data uh, in a more fascinating manner
Okay.
that we can publish our research, our articles in high impact factor journals. So we have joined your session.
Okay, okay, great. Yes, so people are also posting comments on the chat box. So Hassan is saying that he wants to know how can we present. One of you, okay, I have to go back. Okay, wants to know all aspects of scientific research. Okay. Nuzad is saying how to present coherently and have proper understanding of how to answer the questions asked. That's very good, Nuzad. It's pretty close to my objectives of the session today. So great. So Hera is saying, what do we have to present, like what to skim, also how to present. Okay, great, makes sense, very good. Okay, Mustafa is saying that he wonders methods for research and networking with other researchers. Okay, so I think that most of you actually have the hang of the topic and you are familiar with the topic. So let's now begin, right? We are done with, like in the KWL, we are done with the 2 steps. You now uh, have written कि आपको क्या already पता है, and you have told me that what do you want to know. Now, the last step, what I learned, will be something that we will be doing towards the end of the session, right? So once we are done with the session, you are going to tell me what have you learned from today's session. And with that, we are going to wrap up our session. So this is how KWL grid works. You start, once we start the session, we discuss कि हमें क्या already पता है और हम क्या जानना चाहते हैं, right? And then as soon as the session ends, you will have some you'll have some amount of information, or some of you will have ample amount of information, and then in the end you will tell me what have you learned, right? So what we learn is the last step, and we'll move on to that. Okay, now when it comes to presenting research findings, the very first step that a lot of us miss out, sometimes we think कि ये इतना important नहीं है, but whenever there is a presentation, right, it is a rule of thumb that you always need to understand your audience. And that's the first thing in any session, right? In any kind of presentation, you need to know your audience. Now, let me give you some examples so that you can understand how or why understanding the audience is important. Now, for example, that you have a research presentation with you, right? And you are presenting your research in front of an audience. If your audience includes people who do not know about your field, right, or who are not knowledgeable about your field, your language is going to be different, right? So for example, let me give you an example. How many of you are familiar with linguistics? आपको linguistics का पता है? Linguistics क्या होता है? Let me write down in the chat box so that I can. Linguistics, do you know what is linguistics? Okay, so Shazia is saying no. Now, let's suppose I'm giving a linguistics presentation. Okay? Linguistics is basically, for those who are wondering what it is, linguistics is the scientific study of languages. जब हम languages के बारे में scientifically उनको पढ़ते हैं, उसको हम linguistics कहते हैं. So linguistic, let's suppose मैं linguistics की मेरी कोई research है और मैं उस पे अपनी कोई presentation दे रही हूँ in front of an audience. Now let's suppose कि वो audience आप लोगों में से भी उसमें से 4 लोग हैं, and there are some other youngsters and young people who have joined and they do not have an idea about linguistics, right? Now, if my audience is someone जिनको linguistics के बारे में इतना idea नहीं है, when I am presenting in front of them, मेरी क्या कोशिश होगी कि मेरा word choice, the words that I am using are very simple, right? मेरी ये कोशिश होगी कि मेरी slides पे जो मैंने words लिखे हैं मैं बहुत simple हूँ, because the people who are right in front of me, they do not have an understanding of the field, right? So उनके लिए easy बनाने के लिए मेरे अपने words को बहुत easy होना चाहिए. मेरी slides पे जो words लिखे हुए हैं, they have to be very easy, they have to be very understandable, and I will try not to use linguistic jargon. Linguistic jargon means कि linguistics से related जो terminology है, जो मेरे लिए तो बहुत common है क्योंकि मैं linguistics की presentation दे रही हूँ, मैंने linguistics पे research की हुई है, linguistics मेरी field है. मेरे लिए it's very easy, but for a lot of people who are sitting in front of me, उनको वो terminology पता ही नहीं है. उनको पता ही नहीं है receptive skills क्या होती हैं, उनको पता ही नहीं है productive skills क्या होती हैं, उनको पता ही नहीं है फॉसिलाइजेशन क्या होती है. सो रिसेप्टिव स्किल, प्रोडक्टिव स्किल, फॉसिलाइजेशन, ये मेरे लिए या लिंग्विस्टिक्स की फील्ड के जो लोग हैं उनके लिए these are terms which are very common. These are terms which are very very typically used in linguistics books. But if my audience are people who do not know about linguistics, मैं अगर ये terms use करूंगी, they will not be able to understand my research, right? They will not be able to understand my presentation. And if the audience are unable to understand what you are saying, they will automatically lose interest and they probably wouldn't even listen to your presentation. So it's very important that you know your audience. Now look at the reverse end of the picture. For example, presentation मेरी linguistics पे ही है, let's suppose, but now the people whom I am presenting in front of are professors, right? Associate professors बैठे हुए हैं मेरी audience में. There are assistant professors in my audience, and those are people जिनके सामने मुझे अपनी presentation देनी है. Now, if I make my presentation too simple, ठीक है? If I use very easy words, अगर मैं हर चीज को overly explain करूंगी, मैंने अपनी slides बनाई हुई हैं, मैं अपनी स्लाइड्स में रिसेप्टिव स्किल्स क्या होती हैं उसको भी ओवरली एक्सप्लेन कर रही हूँ, प्रोडक्टिव स्किल्स भी ओवरली एक्सप्लेन कर रही हूँ, फॉसिलाइजेशन क्या होता है वो भी ओवरली आई एम एक्सप्लेनिंग. those people are professors, right? They already know, they are professors of the field, वो आपकी field के experts हैं, right? They are people जो ये सारी terminology से familiar हैं. For them, if you are over explaining or if you are using very simple vocabulary, very simple terminology, maybe they get bored, right? They will not be even, might not be even paying attention. So the point is that the reason I'm giving you this example is that it's very important before you go for a presentation. It's very important to be familiar with your audience. You need to know who are the people whom you will be talking to. ये पता होना बहुत जरूरी है कि हम किसके सामने प्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं. Are we presenting in front of people who know our field? If I am presenting my research, for example, on pharmacology, right? मैं pharmacology का मेरा कोई research paper है and I'm presenting, and the people who are sitting in front of me, they do not know anything. Like they might not know something, but they are not very much familiar, right? It can turn out to be problematic, right? So it means that the first thing that you need to know is understanding your audience. It's very important कि आपको अपनी audience का profile पता हो so that you can present well and so that you can present at their level. आप उनके level पे present कर सकें. So आपकी language choices, आपकी word choice, that all depends on the kind of people the people who are in front of you. And understanding your audience is also important because you can also, like, if you look at the third point that is written over here, you can also anticipate questions. जब आपकी audience आपको पता होगी, आपको questions भी आप anticipate कर सकते हैं. Anticipate means that you can expect certain kind of questions. So when you know that the people who are in front of you are professors or associate professors, आप एक questions के level को expect कर सकते हैं कि okay, now I need to be very clear, और मुझे बहुत clearly पता होना चाहिए मेरी methodology क्या है. मुझे बहुत clearly पता होना चाहिए कि मेरा जो ये वाला graph है वो किस चीज को represent कर रहा है, उसमें क्या trends हैं, मेरा रिव्यू ऑफ लिटरेचर में मेरी क्या क्या चीजें हैं, मेरा रिव्यू ऑफ लिटरेचर में क्या गैप है, राइट? सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि आपको ऑडियंस पता हो सो दैट यू कैन एक्सपेक्ट सम काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चंस. अगर आपको पता है कि मेरी ऑडियंस में लाइक देयर आर पीपल हु आर वेरी यंग पीपल हैं, दे माइट नॉट हैव दैट मच नॉलेज अबाउट योर फील्ड, सो यू कैन एंटिसिपेट वेरी सिंपल वेरी बेसिक क्वेश्चंस, राइट? सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कि आपको अपनी audience की knowledge हो, right? That's the first thing. Now let's talk about, let's move ahead. Okay, now since when I asked about what you want to know, so a lot of you wrote this down. Okay, we want to know how to present. Right now, when it comes to making a PowerPoint presentation, since I mentioned earlier, the first type that we are focusing on is PowerPoint presentation, right? So you have this whole research paper. आपका एक पूरा research paper है आपके सामने. अब उसमें से you need to know कि हमें क्या-क्या चीजें include करनी है और क्या-क्या चीजें हमारी ऐसी हैं which can be excluded, right? So it's very important to know the structure of your presentation or how you're going to structure your presentation. In the next slides, हम इसको पूरा slide wise मैं आपको break down करके दिखाऊंगी कि आपको क्या-क्या चीजें are important and how many slides should you ideally allocate to each section. Again, देखें, these are the things that can vary as per the field, right? These are the things that can vary as per the time limit that has been assigned to you. If your research presentation, let's suppose आपकी ideally speaking, but do you have any idea ideally speaking research presentations कितने minutes की होती हैं? Like generally speaking or ideally speaking, do you have any idea कि, for example, if you're presenting research, you're presenting your research findings, so ideally speaking, how many minutes should a presentation be, or how many minutes a presentation is usually of? Yes, you can write down in the chat box again. Ideally speaking, how many minutes of a presentation? Okay, Shaheen is saying 20 minutes. Okay, 30 minutes maximum, right? 15 minutes to 20 minutes. So usually, like, usually speaking or generally speaking, it's around, like, let's say 15 to 25 minutes or even 10 to 25 minutes research presentations. 10 can actually like be very short because research, a typical research paper has a lot of sections or बहुत सारी चीजें होती हैं that we need to cover. So 10 could be a little like, a shorter span of time, but 15 to 25 minutes में आप अपनी research को cover कर सकते हैं depending on like the content of your research. Some research presentations can take a little longer, 30 minutes की भी हो सकती हैं. But ideally speaking, 15 to 25 minutes, right? 15 to 25 minutes की research presentations generally होती हैं. Now coming back to the structure. Now, when it comes to structuring, let's have a look at the slide wise breakdown. But ये चार जो चीजें आपके सामने लिखी हुई हैं, these are obviously the most important sections. Before you present your research findings, you need to tell the audience or you need to tell the people who are sitting in front of you about your research. कि आपका research का topic क्या था, what was your topic, and then you have to introduce your topic. You have to set up a background. आपको पहले background set up करना होता है so that you can move towards your review of literature maybe or methodology and then results and conclusion. Let me show you the direct, like, the slide wise breakdown. So for example, now again, this is not something that you have to rigidly adhere to. ऐसा नहीं है कि ये मतलब एक rigid structure है. You can always experiment. आप किसी में slides को ज़्यादा कर सकते हैं, कम कर सकते हैं. But एक typical जो 15 to 20 minutes की presentation होती है, उसमें generally हम इस तरह से slides को divide करते हैं. So let's talk about these things one by one. So the first slide obviously is going to be your title slide. Right? Now, in the title slide, you generally include the topic. I mean, you have to include the topic. That is a mandatory thing. कि आपका जो topic है, that will be right in front. On title slide, you need to include your name, the date. कुछ universities और कुछ जगहों पे आपको अपने supervisor का नाम include करना होता है. It's a good idea to include the name of your supervisor, जिनके अंदर आपने research conduct की है. So maybe the name of your supervisor. Some universities want you to include the name of your department. So for example, if you are from the Department of Pharmacy, you have to write down your department. So that actually varies from university to university or from, like place to place. But generally speaking, we do include such kind of things when it comes to the title slide. So your title, and then your name, the date, the name of your supervisor, and the name of the department. Typically, ये वाली चीजें हमारी include होनी चाहिए on our title slide. Now, before I move to the introduction or the short introduction, what do you think? What kind of a template should we use when we are presenting research findings? Template means हमें किस तरह की slides, यानी PowerPoint अगर आप खोलते हैं, when you start making a PowerPoint presentation, PowerPoint आपको बहुत सारे templates दे रहा होता है, right? So what do you think? What kind of template or what kind of slides design should we use when we are presenting research? Research presentations के लिए हमें किस तरह का template, किस तरह की slides use करनी चाहिए? Yes. Would you write that down? Okay, Sarah is saying you have to go for simple and plain slides. And thank you so very much, Sarah, for saying this, because I have been to some conferences and I have seen some research presentations. And there were researchers, I mean, they were very young and novice researchers. So you can expect this from them. कि जब आप, when you're young, you really want to experiment with the slide design, and some of them presented their slides, and the slide design was kind of flowery. किसी का flowery है, किसी का geometric है, right? So it's important that you go for very simple and plain template. बहुत simple और plain template होना चाहिए. And you need to choose, I mean, it's ideally speaking कुछ light colors अगर आप choose करें, so that's a good idea, because आपका text prominent हो जाता है when you have the color which is the background which is light, right? So go for lighter backgrounds, or go for texts that are prominent, and go for a very simple template. बहुत simple, बहुत plain template होना चाहिए. Yes, Mustafa, your slides have to be professional looking, right? और एक और भी rule होता है. I mean, it's usually people say कि आपको lighter color पे जाना चाहिए, but it also depends on the kind of room where you are presenting. So when you have, like, if you already know कि आपकी presentation है कहाँ पर, so you need to assess the room. For example, if the room is itself pretty light, कोई बहुत light paint हुआ हुआ है walls पे, या बहुत lighter tone का room है, so your slides can have a darker contrast. आप darker उस पे भी slides को रख सकते हैं, आप darker background पे रख सकते हैं. But on the other hand, if you know कि आपका room already dark colored है, या कोई curtains वगैरह लगे हुए हैं, darker tone है room की, so it's ideal to go for a little lighter tone in the background of the slides, to set up a contrast, because it's going to enhance the visibility of your slides. And then also, as one of you is pointing out, that the font has to be large. So you need to make sure कि आपको already, once if you know where you have to present, you need to see कि आपका कितना बड़ा room है, so that when you are making your title slide, or when you're making your other slides, you need to be careful that even the people who are sitting at the very back, they should be able to view your slides. They should be able to view they should be able to read the words that are written on the slides. So it's important कि आपका इन चीजों की assessment हो. What we do is, हम में से ज्यादातर लोग क्या करते हैं, and then whenever we know we have to present, हम simply बस slides बनाते हैं, and we just think that okay, it's done. We never assess कि हमारी कौन सी audience होगी. We never assess कि हमारी presentation कहाँ पर है, हमें किस तरह के room में presentation देनी है, whether it's a small room, it's a big room, how many people we are expecting, कितने लोग होंगे. इन सब चीजों की assessment is very important to to give a good research presentation, and to establish yourself as a good presenter. It's extremely important. So you need to make sure कि आपकी slides बहुत simple हो, बहुत plain हो, कोई flowery design ना हो, कोई exaggerated design ना हो, no geometrical designs. Lighter colors if your room is a darker, and maybe a darker color if your room is a little lighter, to set up the contrast. And the font size is extremely crucial. For example, title slide के लिए आप 48 तक का text size use कर सकते हैं, so that it's like it's visible for the people who are sitting at the back, right? अगर हम एक typical room की बात कर रहे हैं, so 48 का size, font size would be good enough. But then again, it depends, it varies कि आप कहाँ पे presentation कर रहे हैं. Obviously, if it's an auditorium, then you need to be very careful कि आपकी slides, आपका font size इतना बड़ा हो, so that it's visible. Because if the audience are not able to read, they will automatically lose interest. वो आपस में बातें करने लग जाते हैं, and then as a presenter, you feel as if you are not doing good enough. So these are the things that have to be taken into account. So yes, moving back to the second slide. Okay, so whenever we obviously write down a research paper, hamara research paper mein there's always an introduction. So you need to make sure that after the title slide, you include the most important points of your introduction. Now, review of literature is something which is debatable. In some presentations, depending on the time, again, if you have, let's suppose, a 30-minute slot for presentation, you can have separate slides on the review of literature. right? But then if you feel that my time is very short and I have to focus on my findings and I have to focus on my methods, so then you can include review of literature in your introductory slides as well, right? So that's totally dependent on the time limit that has been given to you, because it's very important that you follow the time limit. So it's important that you decide accordingly. If your presentation is, let's suppose, a 15 to 20 minutes, now in 15 to 20 minutes, if you are including 2 to 3 slides of introduction, that's good enough. And now in those 2 to 3 slides, आप review of literature को भी थोड़ा बहुत include कर सकते हैं by focusing only on the key points, right? So you can simply include the name of the researchers and what did they do and what were the results, right? So in 1 to 2 bullet points, or maybe 3 bullet points, you can cover up 3 main studies that were really helpful or that are really relevant to your topic. So it's, again, it totally depends on the time. Now in introduction, you have to include a little bit of background. You have to include, some bullet points from your problem statement, right? And these are the things that you generally go for when you're writing a short introduction. So ideally speaking, you assign 2 to 3 slides for introduction. If you are giving a 15 to 20 minutes presentation, if it's a longer presentation, you can include some slides, like extra slides on review of the related literature, right? And then you can write those down. But again, because these are slides, so you are not going to, like copy paste the paragraphs from your research paper. You need to make sure that you include bulleted lists, right? Because just keep in mind that bullets are your best friends when it comes to presentations, when it comes to PowerPoint presentations, right? So just consider bullets as your besties, and just make sure that your slides do not have a lot of content. There is one rule as well that I'll be moving towards in the coming slides. That is a rule that we usually use when it comes to content in this on the slides. कि कितना content होना चाहिए. I'll just be moving to that. Okay, so in introduction, 2 to 3 slides, ideally speaking, then hypothesis, you may assign a separate slide on hypothesis to focus and to tell the audience, okay, this is what my hypothesis was, right? And then later on, obviously, towards the end, when you will be presenting your findings and when you will be moving towards your findings and your analysis, then you are going to let the audience know कि आपका hypothesis accept हुआ or reject हुआ or whatsoever, right? So one slide on hypothesis, you can even have one slide on research questions, right? यहाँ आप ये भी कर सकते हैं कि research question and hypothesis एक हम slide बना दें, and then you include your question. If it's one question, you can include one question. If it's like more than one questions, so for example, if you have 2 to 3 research questions, if 2 to 3 research questions are, so you can have a separate slide on research questions, and then you can have a separate slide for hypothesis, right? So I keep on repeating that this is not a rigid structure. You can always experiment. You can always add up slides if you have more time, or you can remove some slides if you have lesser time. अगर 10 minutes की presentation है, तो maybe मुझे अपने introduction में भी 3 slides नहीं चाहिए होंगी. I may have to just include 2 slides because I know that I have to complete my presentation or conclude my presentation within 10 minutes. So everything is dependent on the time slot or the time limit that is assigned to you. Then we move towards methods. Right, obviously in methods, all these things are important. Aapka design kya hai, whether your research is quantitative or qualitative, whether your research, like even in quantitative, aapki research quasi experimental hai, aapki research case study hai qualitative mein, aapki research ethnography hai, aapki action research hai. Whatever the design of your research is, it's important कि आप वो बताएं on top. Again, methodology does not have to be in the form of paragraphs. It has to be in the form of bullets. या आप कोई smart art भी use कर सकते हैं. I don't know how many of you are familiar with smart art. Are you familiar with smart art? PowerPoint का जो feature होता है smart art. Okay, great. Okay, Nuzad is familiar. How about the other people? Okay, not completely. but it's very simple and it's very easy to use smart art in PowerPoint presentation. जैसे आप देखें अभी ये जो आपके सामने स्लाइड खुली हुई है, राइट, जिसमें ये 4 डिफरेंट हमारे पास पॉइंट्स आ रहे हैं, इसमें I have used smart art, right? So मैंने इसमें when I was making a PowerPoint presentation, I simply wrote down 4 bullets. मैंने ये 4 bullets लिखे, title slide, then short introduction, then hypothesis, then methods, and then I selected all the text. आप उसको right click करते हैं, PowerPoint आपको एक ऑप्शन देता है convert to smart art, right? Let me see. I don't know if I can show this to you because it's already converted, but let's see. ये देखिए, can you see this? Can you see like when I am clicking or selecting the text, is this visible to you? Or you can only see the slides?
Yes, ma'am, it is
Exactly.
visible.
Okay, it is visible. Oh yes, so smart art divide main points in pyramids, exactly, right? So it's with the help of smart art, आप अपनी slides को थोड़ा सा, you can give a little interactive look to them. So rather than making plain slides, हम थोड़ा सा smart art के साथ play कर सकते हैं. And we can, include, like जो हमारे bullets हैं, उसको हम smart art में convert कर देते हैं. तो it increases the visible value and it increases the visual appeal. Because, the kind of century we are into, research presentations actually can turn out to be a little boring for audience. So आपको you need to make sure कि हमारी जो PowerPoint presentation है वो बहुत visibly be appealing हो, right? It has to be visually appealing. अब हम we cannot use flowery templates, हम exaggerated templates भी use नहीं कर सकते, हम बहुत सारे colors भी use नहीं कर सकते. तो अब हम ऐसा क्या करें कि हमारी slides visibly like visually appealing हो. So we can rather go for smart art, right? हम smart art use कर सकते हैं. Smart art is going to make your presentations visually appealing, right? And people will be, like when the visuals are appealing, because a lot of us are visual learners. हम जब appealing visuals देखते हैं, we are really fascinated by those and we really want to read कि क्या लिखा हुआ है. So smart art can be one option that you can use. Okay, then in methods, okay, I was at the methods slide. So methods में again it's up to you. Methodology पे आप 2 से 3 slides भी include कर सकते हैं, and even if you just include 1 slide जिसमें आप ये सारी चीजें cover कर सकते हैं, even that could be the case, right? So, but the important things that you need to include is, because when you are giving a presentation, people would want to know कि आपने क्या मेथड यूज किया था, लाइक आपका क्या डिजाइन था, आपका सैंपल साइज क्या था एंड कितना था, राइट? सो फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ माय स्टडी वाज an interview study, it was a qualitative study and my sample size was 25, ठीक है? तो 25 मैंने उसमें mention कर दिया as a sample size. मेरी sampling technique क्या थी? Was it convenience sampling? Was it probability sampling या non probability sampling में कौन सी type थी? So I need to mention my sampling technique. I need to mention my instrument. मैंने कोई questionnaire use किया है. If I have used a questionnaire, whether I have adapted a questionnaire or whether I have adopted a questionnaire from somewhere, मैंने कहीं से as it is लिया है, क्या मैंने, अगर मैंने कहीं से as it is लिया from any other research paper, it means I have adopted. If I have taken the questionnaire from some paper and I have made some changes according to my context, it means I have adapted, right? So adopt किया है आपने या adapt किया है या आपने all together एक नया instrument बनाया है. If it's an interview, तो क्या मैंने अपनी interview guide बनाई है, मेरा interview किस तरह का है, whether my interview is structured, whether my interview is unstructured, whether my interview is semi-structured, in कौन सी interview की type है जो मैंने use किया है. All these things have to be on your methodology slide, right? So जो आपकी methodology की slide है, the slide of methods, उसमें ये सारी चीजें are very important, right? So it's important that you include all these things. Okay, so Tuba is asking that can we add animation too and slides like bullet points appear with clicks? Tuba, yes, you can, but animations, like it's a kind of a debatable thing because animations can turn out to be distracting. So I would suggest कि अगर आप presentation दे रही हैं in front of young people, उसमें you can include animations because the younger people, they're used to gadgets and they're used to such kind of visual effects and 3D effects and animations. But if you're giving presentation in front of like professors and associate professors, उनके लिए this could turn out to be a little distracting. थोड़ा बहुत distracting हो सकता है अगर हमने too much स्मार्ट आर्ट यूज किया हुआ है, एनिमेशंस या ट्रांजिशंस यूज किए हुए हैं. So it again depends on the kind of audience. The younger people are like pretty okay with technology, but yes, if animation is professional, then you can include. I mean, it's not that you cannot include. You can definitely go for that. अगर बहुत प्रोफेशनल सिंपल सी कोई एनिमेशन है which you think एक दफा ये भी कर सकते हैं आप that once you are done with your slides, you can play the slides and you can have a look at it yourself from an audience perspective. आप एक viewer के perspective से देखेंगे वो distracting तो नहीं लग रहा, right? If it's very simple professional सी कोई animation है, so you can definitely go ahead with that. Because again, visually appealing अगर आपकी slides हैं, so it's definitely going to attract the people. So yes, you can go ahead with that. Okay, now moving on. Yes, so what I was telling was that all these things when it comes to methodology are important and they have to be included on the slides. So you can make up 2 slides if you think that, it's being like very crowded on one slide, so you can move on to the other slide. And if you feel that you need a third slide as well for methodology, you can. But typically speaking, वैसे 2 slides में methodology cover हो जाती है. So your design, your method, your sample size may you can even mention the gender ratio. Like typically when I make my research presentations, I usually include sample size mein mere, for example, if I interviewed 25 people, now out of those 25 people, let's suppose 12 people were males and 13 were females, let's suppose. So is tarah ki additional information bhi aap include kar sakte hain. Sampling technique is extremely important that you mention. Instrument, context, ye sari cheezein are the things that you can mention on your methodology slide or your method slide. Now, moving on to the most important part, which is the data analysis and results, which we call the findings. Now, again, it depends on your field and it depends on the kind of research that you have conducted, because not every research will have tables and graphs and images, right? It's amazing if you can include some kind of graphs, like if there is some kind of graphical representation or some kind of tables. Right, so for example, agar aapne kuch simple sa bhi, let's suppose, research kiya hai, the very simple of, like, the simplest of research studies also have, some kind of, let's suppose, koi t-test apply hua hai. It could be, an independent samples t-test, it could be a paired samples t-test. Ho sakta hai humne koi t-test apply kiya ho apne analysis mein. So jab hum apply karte hain, so there is this, result in the form of a table. So when you are presenting, the lesser content the better, right? So jab aap ek table ki form mein present karte hain, it's always more understandable and it's always more appealing. But then again, it depends, because if I am conducting an interview study, so my findings would be more theoretical. Because agar aapne interview ke through data collect kiya hai, so when you conduct interviews, the analysis that you have to do, and that analysis is like a descriptive analysis. Interview के लिए आप ज्यादातर जो data analysis की techniques use होती हैं, वो या तो आप thematic analysis करते हैं or you do content analysis, right? So thematic analysis में भी you make themes, but the analysis is in a form of words. It's descriptive. Similarly, if you have done content analysis, so even in content analysis, the analysis is in form of words. So if it's in form of words, then you have no choice but to include that, but make sure that you include only the most important points, right? Or the most important themes. अगर आपने thematic analysis किया है, तो आपकी जो भी 5, 6 या 8, 9 themes हैं, you can write those themes down. पहले आप table की form में वो themes बता दें that these are the 9 themes, and then one by one you can explain those themes a little bit. On the other hand, if it's quantitative data का I feel like research presentation या findings को explain करना is easier, because you will have tables or you will have some kind of graphical data जो आप अपने simply you have that in your research paper. You can copy paste and then you can add up a little bit explanation if you want, and then you can explain it, right? So data analysis and results can have 2 to 3 slides if you are presenting, if you have the time slot of 15 to 20 minutes. If it's more, You can add up more slides over here because this is the most important part. ये वाला जो आपका part है, that is extremely important. So आप इसमें slides को बढ़ा भी सकते हैं. You can even go for 3 to 4 slides depending on the amount of analysis that you have and the amount of explanation that you need to include, because tables भी generally speaking आपके 3-4 हो सकते हैं. So depends कि आपका जो main result है वो किन tables के through display हो रहा है. You need to include those, and then you have to explain your tables or whatever graphical data you have included. And that's going to be your data analysis slides or your result slides, right? And then you need to remind the audience of your hypothesis. Remember that we included hypothesis in one of the slides. So it's that time that you remind the audience that this was our hypothesis, and then this is how our hypothesis was accepted or rejected, and then a little bit interpretation of the data which you have like analyzed, uska interpretation aap dete hain, and then you explain the results. So basically that is where the data analysis and results slides are. And then in conclusion, you give a little bit of like the ending context. Thoda sa agar aap aur interpretation karna cha rahe hain, or if you want to connect your research with what is going on in the field currently, aap ye bhi kar sakte hain. You can always include, I mean, you should include recommendations for future research. Recommendations for future research is included already in your research paper. So you can include some recommendations for future researchers, especially जब आप क्योंकि present कर रहे हैं. I mean, even if you're presenting in front of professors or younger people, it's a good idea to include recommendations, because if somebody really likes your topic, he or she may wants to investigate further. So when you are recommending about the future topics, it means you are giving them ideas and hints on what are the gaps and what are the elements where further research can be conducted in that particular domain in which you have conducted the research. So it's a great idea to include recommendations. Again, in conclusion, you can always talk about the bigger picture as well. आपकी research क्यों important है? आपकी research की findings एक bigger level पे किस तरह से important है? किस तरह से एक major gap को fill किया है आपकी research ने? Conclusion में it's always a very good idea to remind the audience that your research is important. Your research is significant, right? Because as a researcher, you have to make the people realize the importance of your research. अगर आप simply present करके चले जाएंगे, they will just consider your research as any other researcher, any other research study. As a researcher, if you want your research to be valued, you need to connect it with the bigger picture. तो आप बताएं कि globally क्या काम हो रहा है और आपकी research किस तरह से एक gap को fill out कर रही है, or even locally how your research is contributing to the field, how your research is contributing to the existing body of knowledge जो already knowledge exist कर रही है उसमें, how is your research filling out the gap. So it's very important कि आप अपनी findings के बाद उन findings को connect करें in conclusion with the bigger picture. Tell the audience the value of your research, right? It's very important. And then you can have the last slide जिसमें आपको, if you receive some kind of funding, आप उसको mention कर सकते हैं. You can include a thank you note, something, and then a Q&A, which is obviously very important when you are conducting research. People will have some questions and you will answer those questions. Questions answers पे हम अभी आगे और भी एक दो slides में देखते हैं कि what are the things that you need to bear in mind when you are answering the questions. And it's always a good idea to include your contact information, especially अगर आप conferences में present करते हैं. Like it's important to include maybe an email or a phone number also, if you are okay in sharing your phone number. But sharing an email address or maybe a LinkedIn profile, you can do that, because if people have some questions later on, if people want to know something, they can contact you, right? So do include your contact information. You can also include references in the last slides. उससे भी आपकी presentation की credibility improve हो जाती है. अगर आप ने जो भी references use किए हैं, if you have used a lot of references, You can simply have 1 to 2 slides on references जिसमें आप अपने main like 5 to 10 references को include कर सकते हैं. So you will just have to copy the references from your research paper and then you can include those on your slides. So adding references increases the credibility of your research presentation, and it increases the credibility of your PowerPoint presentation. So it's a good idea to include references in the end. Closing से पहले references end कर लें, and then closing में सिर्फ आप funding बताएं, and then you open the floor for question answers. And उसी में just make sure कि background में you have included some kind of contact information, so that if people want to contact you, want to ask you something, they can do that on whatever address you have provided to them. Right, so that is about the slide wise breakdown, right? ये मैंने आपको जो share किया है, this is simply a slide wise breakdown of the PowerPoint presentation when you are presenting your research paper. Now, as I was talking about the content, ये एक चीज है, I'm sorry, this image is a little, little bright, but एक rule use होता है when we are presenting research or when we are making PowerPoint presentations. Although आप हर slide पे ये use नहीं कर सकते, but I would really like to bring this into your knowledge कि आप जब बना रहे हो अपनी presentations, so you can keep this in your mind, right? So there is this rule which we call 6x6 rule, right? Now 6x6 rule means that on one slide you should include not more than 6 points, right? यानी जब आप lines बना रहे हैं या bullets बना रहे हैं, not more than 6 bullets on each slide, right? So अगर आप 6 bullets से ज़्यादा डाल देंगे, so it will be too crowded. And then in one bullet, no more than 6 words, right? So 6 bullets maximum and 6 words maximum in one bullet. Now I know that although it like looks really great कि हमारी ऐसी slides बनी हुई हों जिसमें 6 words से ज़्यादा ना हो एक bullet point में, but then obviously it's a research presentation and you have to include a lot of information as well. So it's not something that you know like rigidly have to do in any case, but you should try to do this, right? So my point of including this slide is that you should try to follow this rule. And if you feel कि हमारे जो bullet points हैं वो 6 words में हम cover नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, so what you can do is, if you are increasing the number of words in one bullet, so then you need to make sure कि आपकी एक slide पे फिर 2-3 bullets आ रहे हो, then the remaining 3 bullets or 2 bullets can be moved to the other slide, right? So फिर हम 6 bullets एक slide पे नहीं करेंगे. अगर हमारे एक bullet में words ज़्यादा आ रहे हैं, तो we can reduce the number of bullet points on one slide. Right, so 6x6 rule is like an ideal rule for making PowerPoint presentations, but again it depends on like how much content do you have. So we try to follow this rule, but then we may not always follow this, so we need to make sure कि अगर हम words बढ़ा रहे हैं per bullet, so we should reduce the number of bullets, and we can like shift those bullets to the other slide. So this is something that you need to bear in mind. Now, when it comes to the visual data, you need to make sure कि आपने अगर कोई graphs include किए हैं, अगर कोई charts include किए हैं, so they have to be very clear, right? आपके axes सारे label होने चाहिए बहुत clearly, right? And you make sure that you avoid data overload, right? बहुत ज़्यादा अगर आपने data include कर दिया on the slides, it can turn out to be very problematic, right? So make sure कि data इतना ज़्यादा बहुत like there shouldn't be too much data on each slide. So this is something that you need to understand before you are making your slides or when you are making your presentation. Okay, then choosing the right visual. I think this is something that is like that you already know. आपकी अपनी research होती है, so आपको पता होता है कि आपने उसमें tables हैं या graphs हैं या charts हैं, like whatever it is, it depends on the kind of research that you are doing. But when it comes to presenting में तो आपने simply अपने paper में जो already चीज use की हुई है, you simply copy and you paste that when it comes to making a PowerPoint presentation. So it could be table. जो tables आपके research paper में already है, you can include those tables in your slides. If there are graphs, which like graphs are usually used for trends and for some kind of relationships between two variables. So if there are graphs, आप graph भी अपना as it is include कर सकते हैं. If there are some kind of charts, charts are usually used for comparisons and for displaying some kind of proportions. So आप charts भी use कर सकते हैं, but whatever it is, just make sure कि आपके जो paper में use हुए हैं वही आपने अपनी slides में use किए हैं with some amount of explanation. So जैसे for example, this is a bar graph that we all can see. If you can see both the axes are labeled, दोनों axes label हुए हैं. आपके पास साइड पे की भी बनी हुई है कि कौन सा कलर ईस्ट को रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है, कौन सा वेस्ट को, कौन सा नॉर्थ को. Although now that I see it, west or north are like आप देखें दोनों का कलर का डिफरेंस इज नॉट दैट क्लियर. So for example, if you are presenting in front of a lot of people या कोई large classroom है, auditorium है, where you're presenting, ईस्ट वाला तो हमें फिर भी क्लियरली समझ आ रहा है, राइट. दिस इज वेयर आई वांट टू पॉइंट आउट टुवर्ड्स व्हाई कलर्स आर इंपॉर्टेंट व्हेन इट कम्स टू ग्राफ्स एंड व्हेन इट कम्स टू पावर पॉइंट प्रेजेंटेशंस. बट वेस्ट और नॉर्थ में द डिफरेंस इज नॉट दैट डिस्टिंक्ट, यानी इतना क्लियरली आपको डिफरेंस नहीं पता चल रहा. Although the axes are labeled, आपने साइड पे बताया वो भी है, आपने उसको थोड़ा सा आप देखें ऑन द लेफ्ट हैंड साइड उसको एक्सप्लेन भी किया हुआ है. Third quarter performance peaked dramatically in the east relative to the west and the north. And if you notice, जो explanation वाला text है, that is like really good because ये अच्छा बड़ा लिखा हुआ है and it would be readable in a normal classroom. But this distinction between west and north would be problematic. Usually what happens is कि हम graphs include कर तो लेते हैं, but then we do not like we do not look at it from the audience perspective. So it's important कि ये वाली color distinctions आपको बहुत clearly pata ho when you are including such kind of graphs and tables in your research. Then obviously when it comes to delivering, presentation is not just all about making PowerPoint presentation, it's also about your delivery, how well you are presenting. When it comes to presentation, the first and the most important thing is your practice. It's important कि आप rehearse करें multiple times, right? You can rehearse in front of the mirror. Like I think since childhood we have been listening to this strategy, practicing before mirrors. आप mirrors के सामने practice कर सकते हैं so that you can have a look at your overall demeanor. Then you need to time yourself. It's very important that you do time practice because I've seen most of the students, they just practice, they do not time themselves. So if you have been given a slot of 15 minutes or 20 minutes, you need to make sure कि आपकी timing की perfection हो. Right? And when you practice, you also get comfortable with the material. So whatever is written on the slides, aapko, there comes a point when you start memorizing those points. So it becomes very easy when you're presenting because you know what is on the next slide, right? So the transitions are very easy. So it's very important to practice. Then it's very important to speak clearly. You have to maintain eye contact with the people. You need to engage your audience, right? आप उनसे कुछ questions पूछ सकते हैं in the beginning. You can ask them questions about their knowledge. Already उनको क्या पता है, अगर वो कोई younger audience है आपकी, so you can include some kind of questioning session in the beginning. Maintain eye contact because if you do not maintain eye contact, they lose their interest, right? So it's important that you look at the audience. Body language is extremely important. मेक श्योर कि बहुत आपके डिस्ट्रैक्टिंग जेस्चर्स ना हो. अगर आपकी हैंड मूवमेंट्स बहुत ज्यादा हैं, सो मेक श्योर दैट यू कंट्रोल दोस बिकॉज इफ यू इंक्लूड अ लॉट ऑफ जेस्चर्स, अगर आप बहुत ज्यादा हैंड मूवमेंट है आपकी, people may get distracted, right? So people may not focus on what you are saying, they will rather be focused on your gestures. So it's important to use appropriate body language. You can also engage the audience by moving across. So if you're presenting on a stage or if you're presenting even in a class, तो आप front पे जब आते हैं, so it's important or it's a good idea to move around because if you stick to one place, I have noticed that people start losing interest. But when you move around, people would feel as if they are part of the presentation. So it's a good idea to move around when you're presenting, right? And obviously you have to be prepared, right? कुछ questions आप already anticipate कर रहे होते हैं, right? So it's important कि आप उनके answers को पहले से prepare करके रखें. For example, if you are like giving, if you are presenting your research paper in a conference, या if you are presenting in front of your own teachers, आप अपना कोई proposal defense है, आपका कोई thesis defense है, so the people will ask you questions, like why have you chosen this topic, right? Or why, for example, if you have chosen quantitative methods rather than qualitative, so they may ask you this question that why not qualitative, why quantitative, right? Why have you chosen this sampling technique, right? Why have you chosen this area to research on? How are you contributing to the research, to the existing body of knowledge? How is your research going to contribute, right? What is the value and significance of your research? What is the gap that the research is filling out? Right, so these are certain questions that are generally asked, right? So what advice would you give to future researchers, right? If you're in a conference, aapse is tarah ke questions bhi ho sakte hain. So make sure that you are well prepared for those questions in advance, right? And okay, sorry, I think I have gone back. Okay, here we were. And then just some common pitfalls to avoid. बहुत technical jargon include na करें. You should avoid data overload. Make sure that you keep a check on time and make sure that your presentation is clear enough. Right, so these are certain things that you need to keep in mind about the Q&A strategy. Some one of you wrote this down in the comments when I was asking about what do you want to know कि हमें Q&A के बारे में भी पता होना चाहिए. So again, you need to prepare some answers. ठीक है, listen carefully, right? आप ज्यादातर I mean in some research conferences I've seen कि question कुछ और पूछा जाता है और जो researcher होते हैं वो answer कुछ और दे रहे होते हैं. So listen very carefully, because what happens is that when a question is asked, the researchers usually get a little nervous. अपनी nervousness में they do not listen to the question. It's important that you listen carefully and you understand the question fully. And if you haven't understood the question, you can ask for repetition. I mean, you can politely ask for repetition. So you can simply say, would you mind repeating that question, right? So just politely ask for repetition. Answer concisely, right? Don't explain a lot. Don't over explain. Just, be direct and give a short, crisp answer. And I mean, honestly, you need to be honest. If there is a case in which you do not know, you can simply share your contact information and you can simply offer to follow up later. I mean, we are all human beings. There are gaps in our knowledge and there will always be gaps in our knowledge, right? Even if it's my research, even if I'm presenting my own research, there may be areas which I may have forgotten to research about, or there may be areas जिन पे मैंने इतना focus नहीं किया होगा, and that's perfectly okay. So if there is a certain question that you do not know, rather than giving a wrong answer, you can just admit that, I'll follow up later, or I may have to think about this. So would you please give me some time and I will get back to you. If you can share your contact number with me, or if you can just, connect with me on LinkedIn and, we can discuss it later. So maybe something like that in a polite manner. It's always a good idea to do that. So yeah, that is it about the first part of your presentation. We have just discussed the PowerPoint part. So this is about the PowerPoint presentation, that your research is your story. You just need to communicate effectively, and because you are sharing knowledge, you're contributing to the field. So you just need to make sure that you are clear and you are confident and you are well prepared for the questions that could be asked later on, right? So this ends our first section of the slides, which is PowerPoint presentations. And now we'll be moving to poster presentations. I'll be like really quick because I know that we are running short of time, but I want to ask you whether you have any questions so far, or are you like on track with me? Are you getting, because I have to be a little quicker. So yeah. So is that all clear? Are you getting, are there any questions? Okay, Samin got it. Thank you. Great. Okay, Nuzhat is saying all clear until now on my end. Thank you, Nuzhat, for answering. Okay, how about the rest of the people? Okay, good to go. Clear from my side. Great. Okay, I wanted to do a Mentimeter activity with you as well, but I think we are short on time. Rashid, would you please confirm how much time do we have? Can we like do it till 11:15 maybe, or I mean, you guys can also tell me like how long your classes are usually on the weekends. I mean, I don't want to take it, I don't want to take a very long class, but I'm just asking. I would really, want to do it tomorrow, Shaheen, but the problem is that I have another commitment tomorrow. So that's why I really have to do it today. Okay, so I mean, it's telling usually an hour and a half. Okay, so we like, I have already set up the background, so I think the poster presentation part is not going to take that long. Let's begin and let's like get done with it as soon as we can. And then I'll also share my LinkedIn address with you so you can get back to me and you can ask me anything, any confusion that you have, any question that you have. I would be really, really happy to answer and really happy to help you out. So we'll get connected on LinkedIn and you can anytime you can ask anything, right? So yeah, let's go back to the slides then. All right, so about the poster presentation now, let me move to the poster presentations directly. So a poster is basically, I mean, I hope that you are already familiar with what a poster is. So it's a visual abstract of your research, right? So you may have seen in conferences that there are like, like these large posters on the walls and the students are standing right beside those posters. And, when you move towards them, they start explaining your research to them. Sorry, they start explaining their research to you. And those research presentations are not in the form of PowerPoint. There is no PowerPoint presentation. It's just a poster on the wall. And they have included all the, the important sections and they are presenting, right? So that is what we call a poster presentation. Now, let me go further. Okay, now when it comes to a poster presentation, the things that are important and the things that have to be, kept in mind are obviously the structure and the flow. कि आपका क्या structure होना चाहिए and what should be, like the flow of information when it comes to a poster. You need to make sure कि आपकी, obviously you have to create a clear flow. जैसे आपकी PowerPoint presentation में है, there should be an introduction, then methods, then results, conclusion. Then you also need to make sure कि हमारी subheadings, headings, bullet points को बहुत effectively use किया हुआ हो. So for example, if you can see what is written on the right hand side, don't read. I mean, it's not for reading. I've just included it as an example of a visual, right? So if you can see, this is very clear. अगर आप इसको दूर से भी देखेंगे, like obviously over here it's a small font, but when you'll get it printed on a larger paper or a larger, a larger paper, it's going to be very clear and neat. So again, when we are making a poster, we need to make sure that we do not include a lot of information and we only include things that are extremely important because we do not have a lot of space. Now let's move on. We can have two kinds of posters. हमारे दो तरह के posters हो सकते हैं. One is, the poster, like the portrait design, which is on the left hand side, and one is the landscape design, which is on the right hand side, right? So दोनों में से कोई भी आप include कर सकते हैं. It's like totally okay. आप portrait वाले style पे चले जाएं या landscape वाले style पे चले जाएं. If you notice, the portrait style is taller, ठीक है? And the landscape style is wider. हम जब photographs like अपने कैमरे में भी pictures ले रहे होते हैं, so we know कि portrait style कैसा होता है, and if we want to, like cover a bigger area, we usually go for the landscape style. So again, that depends on the kind of information that you have. अगर थोड़ा ज़्यादा content है आपके पास, you can go for landscape. And if you, if your content is limited, बहुत ज़्यादा words नहीं है लिखने के लिए, so you can go for the portrait style as well. Both are perfectly acceptable and both are perfectly professional. Now, if you notice, इसमें कुछ headings भी डाली हुई हैं. Again, you can change the headings. It's up to you. Background की जगह आप introduction की heading भी दे सकते हैं. Generally, poster presentation में हम review of literature इतना ज़्यादा include नहीं करते because people are not, people do not want to know about the existing body of knowledge. What they are interested in is कि आपकी research क्या है, आपका method क्या है और आपका result क्या है. Right, so it's not necessary, or it's a good idea not to include review of literature when you're making a poster presentation. So simply your background or a little bit of your introduction in which you include your problem statement and maybe your hypothesis and then your methods and then the results and then conclusion, right? And then if you notice the landscape one, there is also this future work, right? So maybe some recommendations for future, some kind of image, if you want to include any most important graph or most important table or most important chart from your slides, आप वो भी include कर सकते हैं. And then if you want to include some kind of acknowledgements, you can do that as well on a poster, but make sure कि बहुत short or बहुत corner में you can include the acknowledgements part. Okay, usually when we talk about poster presentation, हम इस तरह का 3 column वाला design use करते हैं. If you look at these as well, ये जो मैंने आपको portrait का and landscape का, you know, these ones that I have shown to you, even in these, you may have noticed that it's a 3 column design. ठीक है, in the poster as well as the landscape style, there are 3 columns. So generally speaking, posters are made in such a manner that we have 3 columns. Now, in those 3 columns, if you look at this picture, on the top, you can write down your title, right? And then the names of the authors. So for example, if you are the author and if there's someone else with you too, so you can include the names of authors, you can include the logos of the institution. So these are the things that can be on the top. Then if you look at these 3 columns, on the left hand side, we have intro, methods, and references. And in the middle, the results and graphs. Because it's important to highlight the results, right? We are talking about presenting research findings. So we need to highlight and we need to focus upon the results and the findings. So those parts come in the middle, right? The graphs and the charts or the table, whatever it is. And then the discussion section comes on the right-hand side. And then you can include the conclusion towards the right-hand side as well in the bottom corner. So this is usually, or this is typically the structure of a research poster, right? Or a research presentation poster. Now, when it comes to, like the principles of effective posters or effective visual aids in general, make sure that you avoid clutter. बहुत ज़्यादा information, too much information ना हो. There has to be white space, right? Because अगर white spaces बीच में होंगी, white space means like the empty space. Empty spaces will make sure कि आपका जो organization है वो clear है. So make sure कि too much content ना हो. You have to be consistent with your fonts. हर section, हर heading अलग font की आ रही है, अलग color आ रहा है. That's going to be very distracting and very difficult for the audience to read. Make sure कि आपके जो visuals हैं या जो भी graphs, charts आपने use किए हुए हैं वो आपकी research से relevant हैं. Most important graph, most important chart को you can include in your slides. And again, simplicity is very important when it comes to poster presentation. Less is more, right? So don't include a lot of information. Okay, now let's talk about some kind of design elements. Let me go to the design elements directly rather than these slides. Okay, now before we talk about the design elements, ये चीजें, because a lot of students ask me कि मिस हमारा कितना size होना चाहिए poster का, कितना बड़ा poster होना चाहिए. Generally speaking, the posters are between, these dimensions. 1 meter to 1.5 meter का आपका एक poster बनता है, right? So that is the ideal size. Just last week, I was reviewing the guidelines of Aga Khan University's upcoming conference. There's this conference that is coming up, and in the conference, in the guidelines, they mentioned exactly the same dimension. उन्होंने poster presentation में exactly यही dimension mention की हुई है, 1 meter to 1.5 meter. Right, so your poster has to be this big, 1 meter to 1.5 meter के बीच में आपकी उसकी dimension होनी चाहिए. Posters should be visible from a distance of 2 to 3 feet. जो आपका text है या आपका जो your main information, it has to be visible from a distance of 2 to 3 feet. So for example, अगर कोई 3 feet पे भी है, so आपकी main heading, आपका title, आपका result, graph, those things should be visible from 2 to 3 feet. And number 3 is something that I have already told you, that usually poster is designed in 3 columns, right? So the 3 columns are something that we have already seen. This is one sample that I have included of a well-designed research poster. आप देखें, there is not a lot of content on this, and despite that, इन्होंने बहुत सारी चीजें already cover की हुई हैं. So ऊपर topic भी लिखा हुआ है, ठीक है, then department भी लिखा हुआ है. Then on one side there is this abstract, then there is this background जिसमें एक उन्होंने graph add किया हुआ. There is this line graph that has been included. Then in the center there is a picture to grab attention, ठीक है. Then methodology को भी the person has divided into 3 subsets में methodology बता दिया. Then comes the results and then conclusion. Right? So this is just a sample. You can find a lot of samples of well-designed posters. And this one, again, if you notice, this one is in 3 columns. ठीक है, 3 columns में है. Author का नाम भी लिखा हुआ है on top. Internet inequality से नीचे देखें, but I have removed, like, मैंने उसको black कर दिया है for, you know, the purposes of privacy. So this is what an ideal poster looks like. And if you look at the last line, in the last line, I would like to thank, and then, you know, there was this person's name and the UT Department of Economics for supporting this research project. This is what we mean when it comes to acknowledgement, right? So you can include one line of acknowledgement. You can include a thank you note, something for your supervisor or for the department that has been really helpful. So yeah, this is how a sample, a poster or a well-designed poster looks like. Just a second. Okay, so now I have seen this question now. The question is, why do we need research poster? That's an excellent question. See, there are some conferences or there are some places where you have to present your research in the form of posters, right? So poster presentation is one form or one way of presenting your research. So not everywhere you give an online PowerPoint presentation, or not everywhere you give a PPT kind of presentation. There are a lot of conferences, जैसे मैंने आपको अभी example दी of the Aga Khan University. उनकी एक upcoming conference आ रही है related to, you know, like some kind of early childhood development or something like that. And they are like, you know, they're like calling for papers. So in that, they have included like different kinds of presentations. So you can simply have a PowerPoint presentation as well, but then there is another kind of presentation that is poster presentation, and they're also asking for papers or, you know, for people to present their posters. So research poster or presenting your you know, research findings through a poster is another unique way of presenting your findings. And because most of us are visual learners, so that's why I have been noticing that now in conferences and in international conferences as well, there are always poster presentation sections, and there are always places जहाँ पे सिर्फ posters लगे हुए होते हैं, and you know, the people are presenting. And just last month I was invited as an evaluator at Jinnah University for Women. It was their annual project display, and it was basically a research project display. So all the students, they you know, whatever research they did, they presented those research papers in form of posters. And the whole, like, there was this whole hall, and on the walls, the students, you know, they pasted, they hang, actually the posters were, you know, like hanging, and the students were standing, and as I was moving you know, like across the hall, the students explained the posters to us and what their presentation was about. So basically, poster presentation is actually emerging to be one of the most crucial kinds of research presentations, and this is the reason that it's important to know the, you know, how to make a research poster as well. So again, not always you present research in form of PowerPoint. You may have places, you may have conferences where they ask you to present your research in the form of poster. So it's important that you know that. Right, so basically that's the thing. And then, okay, when it comes to visuals, it's important that you know, like, your colors are limited. Just for example, if it's a poster, like for example, if you look at the right hand side on in this poster, aap dekhein bahut sare like different colors use hue hain, and those are, you know, like very darker colors, red and green and blue and yellow. So you know, such, we don't want a poster like this just mein itne sare colors ki variations ho. So my suggestion is that you have 2 or 3 shades of a primary color. कोई भी आप primary color ले लें, blue or green or red. I mean, like, say, red or blue, and you can then have an accent color that stands out and a couple of text colors. Let me show you what I am talking about. So for example, आप ये देखें, ये दोनों examples हैं. Now on the right hand side, बहुत ही decent सा gray और black का आपने combination लिया हुआ है. So one is the dark primary color, ठीक है. Then आपके पास एक primary color है which is a little lighter. Then you have an accent color. Accent color क्या है? जिसमें आपको कोई भी चीज जो बहुत important है, जो आप चाहते हैं कि दूर से नजर आ जाए, उसको हम accent color में डालते हैं. So for example, if you notice 87%. Now 87% दूर से भी ये वाली चीज आपको नजर आएगी if it's on the poster, because आपने उसको एक accent color, एक ऐसा color दिया हुआ है which is different from the background. So it is making it accentuated, it is making it visible and more prominent. And then you have text one, जो आपका text लिखा हुआ है, that color, and then you have text two which is white. जैसे आपने headline दी हुई है, for example on top में आपके पास लिखा हुआ है sample headline, it is written in white color. So इस पूरे poster में इन्होंने ये 5 colors use किए हैं, and all the colors are somehow like related, बस एक accent color है which is different, and वो किस लिए है, so that your content stands out. Simple. जो चीज कोई percentage, कोई graph, कोई figure, something that you want the audience to readily notice, that will be in accent color. And then you have example 2. Example 2 भी हो सकता है आपका, ठीक है? So again you have dark primary color, then you have a primary color, then there is accent color which is in red this time, then you have text one which is a little grayish black, ठीक है? वो आपका text लिखा हुआ है उसके अंदर, and then you have text 2 which is again white, and जिसमें आपने अपनी headline दी हुई है या अपनी heading दी हुई है. So that is how you need to make a poster. So you need to make sure कि आपका poster, again if I just go over what we have already discussed, your poster has to be in 3 columns. It's extremely important कि 3 columns में हो. Then it's important that your color palette should be like this, right? So not a lot of variation into colors, but 5 colors आपके हो सकते हैं like this, right? और 5 colors भी देखें, they're not very different, मिलते जुलते हैं. 2 तो आपके पास black and white है, and then you have 1 color which is accent color to make information stand out on your poster. Okay, so this is how it looks like when it comes to colors. It's very important कि आपके 3 columns हों, आपके colors अच्छे हों. आपको मैंने एक sample poster भी दिखाया है, 3 columns में क्या क्या information हम include कर सकते हैं और करते हैं, title, authors, and all these things. Okay, moving on. Okay, now this is something that we can skip for now because हम ज़्यादातर चीजें इसमें से हम देख चुके हैं, but just number 1 आप देख लें, scripting में yes to bullet points, no to long paragraphs. This is something that we have already discussed. Use sections with headers, right? आपको अच्छी headings लगानी है. Maximum 250 words होने चाहिए आपके poster पे, possibly like 150 से अंदर ही हो तो अच्छा है, but maximum 250 words हो सकते हैं on a poster. Don't forget your contact information. It's very important कि आपका contact information हो for people who want to know about you or who want to ask anything. Make sure your poster is telling a story that includes background, question, methods, results, conclusions, right? So these are the things that are important. जो आपके usually when you will be making a poster, आपके poster पे ये वाली information generally होती है, ठीक है? So this is important. Design में आप देखें इन्होंने clearly लिखा हुआ है that decide a layout before you start designing. Negative space is your friend. 40% should be blank. कोशिश करें कि आपके पास empty spaces हों on your poster. 3 to 5 colors आप use कर सकते हैं जो मैंने आपको अभी दिखाया in the previous slide. Use 1 accent color to draw attention. This is something that I have shown to you as well, right? That 1 color that stands out. And a no to images and patterns as background. Your background has to be plain. उसमें कोई watermark या कोई background में picture नहीं होनी चाहिए. It has to be simple, plain background, right? And use 1 to 2 fonts readable from 1 meter. Right, so these are the things that you need to bear in mind while you're designing. And moving on, title के लिए भी again try to go for simple text, right? बहुत ज़्यादा complicated or just don't go for a fancy font when it comes to title. Make sure that simple आपका title हो. 1 to 2 different fonts आप use कर सकते हैं. You can use boldface on titles and headlines while the rest of the text should be normal. Right, and for the font style, you can stick with classic Arial font or some familiar fonts, Times New Roman or something. In terms of font size, try 90 for the title as it's written, 60 for the headlines, and 36 for the body text. Right, these are some ideal instructions. Now, sometimes when you are going over the conference, like the conference that you want to present, उनकी अपनी भी कुछ instructions और guidelines होती हैं. So make sure कि आप उनको follow करें. But these are like general guidelines that are usually accepted in most of the conferences where there are poster presentations. And then some last do's and don'ts, white space, no jargon, design आपका अच्छा होना चाहिए, and the message has to be focused, right? So yeah, these are certain do's and don'ts. And then there are certain online tools that I have included. You can use Illustrator, you can use Canva. Canva पे बहुत अच्छे posters आप design कर सकते हैं, Microsoft PowerPoint पे भी, but I would rather suggest you to go for Canva, right, for designing. And for like 3 column का जो आप poster बनाते हैं, वो बहुत अच्छे effective posters बन जाते हैं on Canva. Since we are running short of time, I cannot actually demonstrate. Otherwise, I would have shown you कि आप Canva पे किस तरह से start कर सकते हैं. But there are, like there's a lot of there are a lot of tutorials that are available on YouTube as well. So आप Canva पे research poster design करने को अगर search करेंगे, you will find a lot of videos and you will be able to like design those posters. But आपको ये वाली सारी चीजें याद रखनी होंगी: the color palette, the font size, the font style, the 3 column idea. Just make sure that you keep those things in mind while you're designing your own poster, right? So yeah, this is it. If there is any question that you would like to ask, you can. So either we need video. Most of the cases, Shaheen, you either need a PPT or a poster. So generally, या तो आपको PPT बनानी होती है या poster बनाना होता है. There may be some cases. I remember I went to one of the conferences that was arranged by NED, and उन्होंने like उनके students ने ये किया हुआ था कि like their students when they were presenting, like different cubicles बने हुए थे, और उन cubicles में the students were sitting, and they also had a laptop with them, so they were presenting their research as well. Like जैसे हम cubicle में जा रहे थे, so they asked us to sit down, and then they were presenting their research in the form of PowerPoint पे भी present कर रहे थे, and there was this poster in the background as well. So there may be some cases जिसमें आपकी कुछ इस तरह का setup बना हुआ हो कि आप PowerPoint पे भी present कर रहे हैं अपनी research, and it was also a kind of a project display. NED का project display था, but the students had both, like they had their laptops जिसमें उनकी PowerPoint presentations थी, and there was a poster in the background as well. But generally speaking, like in 95% of the cases, I haven't seen this. या तो poster presentation होती है, so it's just a poster, right? And the students are just explaining through the poster. Or if it's a PowerPoint presentation, so like generally it's just a PowerPoint, and like you are presenting in front of people or an audience, so that's just a PowerPoint presentation. But I feel like it's important to know both, और आपको दोनों पता होने चाहिए, because there are some conferences जिसमें आपको दोनों का option होता है. So like, and there like in terms of poster presentation, I've noticed कि लोग थोड़ा posters को बनाने में hesitate कर रहे होते हैं. So if you want to present your research, और कोई बहुत अच्छी conference है जिसमें आप present करना चाहते हैं, generally जो बड़ी universities होती हैं when they are arranging conferences, तो उनकी जो paper presentations होती है उसमें बहुत लोग apply कर रहे होते हैं. But जो poster presentations होती हैं उसके लिए there are fewer people, so you even have a better chance of getting accepted when you are making a poster, because very few people usually apply for poster presentations. So I feel like you need to know both in order to have maximum chances of presenting at like as many research conferences as you want to. So yeah, that's the whole idea. Okay, anything else if you would like to ask, or any other question? Okay, I really want to do the last step of the KWL grid that we started with, but I feel like you guys are really tired. So shall we do that, or shall we skip the last step of the KWL grid? What have you learned, right? Not exactly. The poster presentation does not have higher weightage than PPT. It's just that what I meant was कि जब हम conferences, ज़्यादातर conferences होती हैं उसमें poster presentation के लिए कम लोग apply कर रहे होते हैं generally. तो आपका एक्सेप्टेंस का चांस बढ़ जाता है. इट्स जस्ट अ चांस, इट्स नॉट, आई मीन ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि उस कॉन्फ्रेंस में पोस्टर के लिए ज्यादा लोगों ने अप्लाई किया हो. आई मीन दैट्स नॉट something which is always the case, but usually मैंने ये देखा है that paper presentations में slides लोगों ने, because making slides are is easier. So generally ज्यादा लोग apply कर रहे होते हैं for paper presentations and fewer people apply for poster presentations, and that is why poster presentation का acceptance का ratio या acceptance का chance ज्यादा होता है. It doesn't mean कि उसका weightage higher है PPT से. I mean it has got nothing to do with higher weightage. It's just कि आपका chance बढ़ जाता है. That's it. That's the only thing. Exactly. It means that it's less competitive, so it's easier to get. Yeah, that's great. That is something which sums it up. So yeah, it means that it's less competitive. So it's like you have more chance to get accepted. So that is the whole idea. Okay, so if there is no new question, okay, we can do the last step. Okay, one thing that I can do is that for the last step, there is a Google form that I have made. So I'll just drop the link of the Google form on the chat box, and you can fill it out later on, right? Yes, I'll share the slides. I'll share the slides with you guys. So sorry, what I was saying. Yes, so there's this Google form that I have made for the last step. So I'm just copying the form's link in the chat box, and you guys can fill it out later, right? So it's not necessary that you do it now. Let me just go back and just copy the link, and then you can fill it out later. Okay. Okay, this is my LinkedIn profile, and I would really like to get connected with you guys, and any kind of question that you have, I would be like really glad to answer those. So yeah. In the meantime, let me, okay, I'm just stopping the share and I am, okay, no. You're welcome. Thank you so much for being here and for listening. Just give me a minute. Just okay, so I've shared the link of the Google Forms. You can simply fill it out. It's just one question. What have you learned? You can write down simply some words or maybe sentences if you want. So yeah, this is it, right? So we're done with KWL Grid as well. So thank you so very much. And thank you so very much for being here and for listening, for patiently listening, in fact. And I had a great time with you guys, and I wish you all the very best in future in your journey as researchers. And anytime you need any kind of help related to language or related to formatting or anything specifically related to presenting your research findings, making a PowerPoint presentation, designing a poster, you're most welcome to contact me through LinkedIn. I'll share my email address as well through Mr. Rashid, and he'll share the slides in the group. He'll share my email address as well in case you want to contact me for anything. In particular, like I am a language expert and linguistics. The reason why I asked about linguistics is because linguistics is my area of interest, and linguistics is my field as well. I am a linguist by degree and an ELT practitioner by profession. So it was wonderful meeting you guys, and just anytime you need any kind of help, I would be, like really glad to help you guys out. So thank you so very much for your time and for patiently listening, for being so responsive on the chat. So yeah, thank you. Okay, shall we end the session? I don't know if Mr. Rashid is still here. Okay, so let's end it, and thank you so very much. Take care, all of you, and Allah Hafiz.